38 minutes after the hour now, President Biden today touting his efforts to bring down the high cost of gasoline, but he's actually coming under fire for his latest claim that seems to be, let's just say, inflating just how far prices have actually come down. Take a listen.
We've made historic progress. We've made historic progress with the price of gas down $1.30 since the beginning of the summer. In some few states, it's below $3.
Well, AAA begs to differ. You see, currently there are no states seeing gas prices below $3 a gallon. Cheapest is Mississippi at about $3.07. Here to discuss is tonight's panel. Democratic strategist, my man, Kevin Walling, visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Angela Morbido, and the smart guy in the room, economist Stephen Moore. I want to start with you, Stephen, because as much as people would love to turn this into Trump talk and other things, I think the old adage still holds. It really is about the economy when it comes to the midterm. Is that your sense? And given where we are, I guess the second part of the question would be, is that terrible news that's likely to get worse for Democrats?
I think it will. I hope I'm wrong about that. But the economy, we've been having this big debate about whether we're going to have a soft landing or a crash landing. And given the news of the last couple of weeks, it's looking pretty ugly out there right now, Kevin. It is true, by the way, gas prices are falling. But, Kevin, just about everything else in the Consumer Price Index went up in price. Everything from rental cars to buying new cars to food to utility bills. So people are feeling the pressure. Heritage Foundation says the average family has lost about $4,000 in purchasing power because of this high inflation. It's a curse.
Well, that's devastating. Angela, I want to bring you into the conversation because there's usually talk that Dobbs or abortion really is the driver for many women come the midterm elections. But I think it's fair to say that the economy really drives women as well. In particular, they typically in this country run the household finances. They make the bucks, they pay the bills, they take care of families and themselves. This would seem to portend poorly for Democrats.
Exactly, especially after the COVID-19 lockdowns hit women and working women in particular especially hard. And looking at these inflation numbers, Kevin, it doesn't shock me at all that Democrats want to make this upcoming election about anything except the economy. It's why they're talking about climate change and gender identity politics. But what they're forgetting is that those are essentially luxury problems, that if you can't put food on the table, you're not going to be concerned about your carbon footprint. If you can't afford to put gas in your car, you definitely can't afford to buy an electric car. So it's a real miscalculation on the part of the Democrats, but in a sense, they have nothing to talk about with this economy. They have nothing to brag about as much as President Biden wanted to throw himself a party with Elton John.
You know, Kevin, you and I have had a chance to chat about this both on air and off, and I do feel like the strategy, at least from the Democrats' perspective, ought to be we're moving in the right direction. That may be a difficult sell, especially if you've paid groceries anytime recently, but you can point to gas prices. You can point to some of the legislative victories on the Hill. Is that the strategy to sort of blunt what polling suggests is a negative vibe around the country vis-a-vis the economy?
Yeah, Kev, I think you're absolutely right. Obviously, and we've had these conversations, I think the state of inflation, where gas prices are, where grocery costs are, is going to be the #1 driving factor when it comes to the midterm elections. And we can talk about Roe on the margins and things like that, which is an animating issue. But certainly the state of the economy is going to be critically important. And that's why you're seeing the president campaigning so hard based on what Democrats have done, mostly single-handedly. We passed a bipartisan infrastructure bill, but Democrats solely are bringing down the cost of energy for American families. We're bringing down the cost of prescription drugs in this country, putting more money in the hands of Americans. And you saw what the Republicans tried to do last week in Pittsburgh with this commitment to America, which says they want to bring down the cost of inflation, but with no policy prescriptions behind it. They have no actual, policy recommendations. And Tucker Carlson even earlier today called them out on that fact.
Yeah, I listened to Tucker's, I did listen to his statement. Go ahead, Stephen, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, we had a 1.5% inflation rate when Biden came into office. The average inflation rate under, I worked for Donald Trump. We had inflation of 2%, and when he left office, it was 1.5%.
But see, look at where all the other industrialized countries are. They're much higher than we are.
How do you go from 1.5% to 9% inflation in 19 months? I didn't even think that was possible. And it's because of the massive trillions and trillions of dollars of spending and debt. It's that simple. Why did they pass these trillions and trillions of dollars of spending bills, Kevin? I don't understand it.
Kev, we'll get you back in here. Let me let Angela weigh in, and then, Kev, you can wrap it up for us. Go ahead, Angela.
Sure.
Well, I think it is extremely telling that the Democrats claim to be fighting inflation, and yet they're going to spend $420 billion on a student loan bailout. They're pouring gasoline on the fire of inflation, and it really disrupts their entire narrative. It's also, 1, totally illegal, 2, vote buying in advance of the midterms, and 3, only going to make things economically worse.
Let me wrap it up with you, Kev. I want to give you a shot at what Angela just said. The CBO score on student loan, some people have termed it a giveaway. Not looking good. In the 30 seconds we have left, your reaction to that?
Listen, Kev, 90% of the student loan forgiveness is going to Americans making less than $75,000 a year. I love to compare that to the $2 trillion tax cut that Steve and his friends passed that went to the wealthiest Americans and corporations. And you look at the state of the economy in the world, everyone is facing this rapid inflation because we're coming out of COVID and disrupted supply chains. And you can explain away, and blame it on government spending, and certainly that's a factor. But you look at the worldwide numbers that we're seeing with regards to inflation, and you see the president really acting on that as his #1 issue now 6 weeks out from the midterm elections.
Angela, Kevin, Stephen, I owe you a drink. Thanks for being with us tonight. I hope you're sleeping well tomorrow, my friend. I owe you back the time.
I'm ready for it, Kev.
I need to
Let's
give you a little time back. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Thanks to all of you.
See ya.